just get the introduction from yourself, Mark. Tell us a little bit about Netalico.
Yeah, so I'm Mark, the founder of Netalico Commerce. We're an e-commerce only Shopify, Magento BigCommerce agency. Our specialty is in working with teams that usually are between like 5 to 50 employees, and we're kind of the fractional fill in the gaps team of development, design, marketing, kind of whatever they need to augment or sometimes in some cases replace their team. And AI and CX has been a big push, and it's been a big question that we've got. And I don't know, in the past couple months, I'm sure you've seen like ChatGPT came on the market, and it made AI like very real for people. I think before it was kind of this abstract concept, and then ChatGPT came around, and normal people could use a large language model, and now everyone's trying to use it in every product basically.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. We'll get into that. So maybe one more question specifically about your company, and for those that are listening, like how does one know that like they're ready to use an agency like yours? Is there a common theme that you see, a problem, a pain point that then companies then go out to and reach Natalico?
Yeah, the pattern we've seen is particularly for Shopify companies, they're able to scale to a couple million in revenue just using like a part-time freelancer. But then they get to the point where, like, this is a specific example of a potential client. They're saying like, "Hey, my developer is like in Australia, and sometimes he goes off the grid for like a week or so. Like, I'm a little nervous about like relying on my putting my multi-million dollar business to rely on that person being available. How can I kind of like take my e-commerce business to the next level of like stability and coverage without necessarily hiring a full-time developer, which could be 60 100K a year. So that's kind of like the bridging of the gap of like between a freelancer and like a full-time person, and you just get a full-time, or you get a fractional team of multiple full-time people.
So you're like saying that there needs to be a point in time where, hey, someone has to be looking at this 24/7, and you don't want to kind of bring the full-time employee on to do just that, but the part-timer isn't cutting it. Is that kind of the sweet spot?
Yeah, because most Shopify companies, they don't necessarily need the time of a full-time developer. There's things to do, there's redesigns, there's
Yes.
tweaking apps, that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily a full-time job. But you do want someone kind of like on call, like full-time, or even maybe more than full-time, almost 24/7, just in case something happens.
Love it. And if you don't mind, are there a few of your favorite clients you'd like to kind of call out here? Like, what are some of the clients that you do work with today?
Probably our favorite and like most well-known client is Oatly, the oat milk company. They just have a very, very unique brand. They're fun to work with from a design and like a branding and personality perspective. Another fun one is crossroads.com. They have a really great fitness product, and they're always kind of on the cutting edge. They've developed an app as well that integrates with their jump ropes, and
Mhm.
it's cool to be a part of that kind of innovation.
So Oatly, and I should know this or not, but so could you purchase Oatly directly from them?
You can, yeah. In the U.S., their site runs on Shopify. We manage it, and you can purchase a six-pack of their barista edition chocolate milk. They have a couple shelf-stable products that don't even need to be refrigerated, so they're perfect for D2C.
That's amazing. And kind of this ventures into just like how I'm curious how you think about Shopify versus BigCommerce versus Magento, because it sounds like you work with all of them too. So when I think of a brand like Oatly, obviously my mind goes to like how big of a brand they are. and how Shopify now has really excelled in their space to be like, yes, they have smaller companies, but also there's so many larger brands that are now in the Shopify ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just curious from your standpoint, like, did you think that Shopify would get this big a couple of years ago in terms of being a small place vendor as well as an enterprise driven company at the same time?
It's a good question because we're fairly new to the Shopify ecosystem, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And four or
Okay.
five years ago, I was saying, Shopify is terrible for like big companies. You
They
can't
didn't
rely
have
on it.
enterprise companies 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
when people were kind of switching off from Magento 1 to Magento 2, Shopify wasn't a great option, but it was growing and their capabilities were growing fast. And now, in a lot of ways, it's at parity with something like Magento or BigCommerce or even Salesforce Commerce Cloud, with what you can do like with it. And like if you get a list of requirements, you can actually fulfill all those requirements versus a couple years ago, you would have to say a lot of times, hey, the platform just can't do this. We can't make the platforms do this because it's software as a service. You either have to compromise on that or you have to go to a different platform.
Now, do you see, are there clients coming to you that are moving from BigCommerce, Magento to Shopify? Like, are you starting to see that happen more often?
Yeah, we definitely see more migrations to Shopify from BigCommerce, Magento, even Salesforce Commerce Cloud.
Salesforce, yeah.
Yeah. I think because Shopify has increased their capabilities, and also I think people's perspectives on e-commerce has gotten, I don't know, more nuance, and they realize that like the front end of the site can be fairly simple as long as you can do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the checkout works well. Like that's all you need, and then you integrate with your ERP. There's all these SaaS tools, like Customer, that like you plug in your site to. It's just now the hub versus before like 10 years ago, if you were on Magento and you needed reviews, you would have to like write your own custom reviews module. Now there's
Yeah.
so many reviews apps and customer service apps, that kind of thing. The e-commerce platforms have gotten a little more like light and
Yeah.
simple, and become more of the hub versus like the monolith that they were before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say probably partners like yours really, and the technology partners, kind of like customer, are some of the main reasons that I think Shopify has seen so much success in the last 3, 4 years, right? Like with your example, like, okay, there's probably 15, 20 different apps in their ecosystem that you can choose from, that then you
Yeah,
can have a 1, 2 click install of a reviews platform right on your site. And then the ability to look even outside of the Shopify app store to find tools that work really closely with Shopify in order to get that in.
yeah,
Super interesting. So let me kind of take the next step into like the CX space. Um, just to throw this out there, like my hypothesis is that like CX means something different to every single brand out there. It's not a one size fits all as much as maybe you hear others talking about it. But from your standpoint, when you think of customer experience, what does that mean to you and maybe the brands that you work with when someone's talking about customer experience? Like, how would you define that?
yeah. I mean, I think it starts with the user experience once people land on the site and they see the site. But I think it switches over more to the customer side once you've made a purchase, because you're not a customer until you've made a purchase. And so it's all the things that kind of happen post purchase, whether it's modifying or canceling your order, any kind of support issue, like how can you get like the quickest feedback with like the most accurate answer. And I think that's really the hybrid that a lot of brands struggle with, is how do I have like that live chat experience without staffing a huge call center basically with live chat operators. And then if I automate it, then how can I have that more human experience so they don't like feel like they're just talking to a robot basically.
And do you think the trend of customer experience has significantly increased, and maybe people are investing more of their time and attention to it. And I ask you the question from, again, you're the one that's working with a lot of the clients. Are they asking and are they wanting to provide more insights into that experience? Because I could say from the tech side, there's definitely a lot more investment there. But from the client side, I'm curious what you hear.
Yeah, I think there's been a little like V-shaped resurgence because I remember a couple years ago our clients were like taking the phone numbers off their site and almost like downgrading their customer experience because they saw it as such like a cost center. It was just an expense,
Yeah.
like money out the door. But I think in the past couple years, there's been a rethinking of the role customer experience plays. I think Amazon has a great deal to do with that. Of hey, there is value in the customer experience, and thinking about more of the lifetime value of the customer makes you invest more in the customer experience because it's not just that one first sale, which is usually the most expensive sale for you as a brand. It's once you can acquire the customer, if you can get repeat sales out of them, that's way cheaper than trying to keep on churning and keep on acquiring customers.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So you brought up the term, you brought up the A word, Amazon. So I just want to venture into this a little bit. Like, I
Yeah,
just to throw my opinion out there, I think that I really enjoy the D2C space, and the reason why is because this is a space that brands talk to other brands about like what they should do, their marketing strategy, their retention strategy, everything. Probably like how they should develop their website as well too. And they're not afraid to talk to one another because they're not competing against one another. They're all competing against Amazon, right? And so like it brings everyone together. And I've seen that in the last few years, which is like it's just fun to be around, where everyone loves to learn from everyone and they love to experiment because it's going after this big brand. But again, the Amazon play, my gosh, like I couldn't agree more with you of like customer experience, right? Like I know what I would expect if I purchased a good on Amazon, if I needed to return it, whatever else. And when I'm working with a brand that I don't know what's their return policy, I don't know what to expect after I purchase, and so forth. There's so much friction and hesitation there.
yeah.
Um, that, again, like you see that often when you're talking to clients.
I think Amazon is really set the bar for the customer experience, and D2C brands, they can have a better user experience, but the biggest struggle is to have a similar customer experience because Amazon's margins are so low. They're a very like customer centric company, um,
Yes.
and so whatever you can do as a little or individual brand to match that customer experience, I think will make your customers much more likely to buy directly from you versus just copying and pasting it and going to Amazon and just, purchasing there. I'm sure you've done that a lot in your life of like, okay, I saw it on this site, but it's easy to get it in Amazon.
Unfortunately, I have, and it's not going to change anytime soon unless like there's a big hiccup, right? But this is the challenge. And so, like, well, actually, like, why don't we just lead right into like AI? Like, this could actually be interesting for these type of brands that could offer a level of customer experience that Amazon offers by utilizing new technology like AI. So, what do you think of in the last? You just talked about ChatGPT coming out and at the end of last year. Have you seen other exciting things? Do you see clients come to you asking more about how they can utilize some of this AI stuff? What are you hearing?
Yeah, no, that's been a big topic the past couple months. Clients asking, "Hey, can I use AI to edit my Shopify store? Can I use AI to expand my live chat, customer support tickets?" Especially with the economy, I think the economy is doing okay, but there's still a lot of like shakiness and people's attitudes around the economy. People are in a cost savings mode, and rather than hiring another customer service person, they're thinking, hey, how can I make my existing team that much more efficient so that we can scale as a brand and not necessarily have to like keep increasing our cost. You know, some people say like AI is going to, replace jobs. I mean, I think in the long term, it's going to replace jobs, but with productivity and like factories and that kind of thing, there's always new jobs created. So the more productive like one person gets, it frees them up to do other things. And with unemployment so low right now, I don't think that
Yeah.
there's a huge risk of like a huge layoff around companies. Um, but whatever they can do to just make their current operations more efficient without hiring more people, they they love that. Like that's totally on their mind.
Now, have you actually worked on any solutions even outside of CX that has a AI kind of leverage to it?
Yeah, I've been working on in the background a couple kind of side projects that use the OpenAI APIs, that kind of thing. I honestly I can't reveal them like publicly yet.
Ah.
Um, I know, but
Is it in the e-commerce Shopify space, or we talking outside of that?
it is, but I can't talk about it yet.
Don't worry
But
about it.
the coolest thing about AI and even ChatGPT is it's like almost self-creating. You can literally ask ChatGPT to code you something, code me a chatbot. One of my friends just did a tutorial on how to, you know, it asked ChatGPT basically to create your own ChatGPT. And that kind of thing, I think, is actually like exponential productivity
Yeah.
for programmers, for designers, and then I think for customer service, for like human interactions. I think ChatGPT has been the closest thing that we've had to having something like kind of pass the Turing test, where people can't 100% tell the difference whether they're talking to a bot or a human. And I think there's a lot of potential in leveraging that I don't know, closeness of how close we've gotten, without replacing the humans, but really like augmenting them. So, there's still humans supervising the AIs and making sure like the responses that are going out are accurate and, feel very human. But they don't have to like send out every single response. So, before a customer service person could, respond to like, I'm just pulling this out of my,
Go for it.
head of like 100 questions an hour, and now maybe they can respond 1,000 questions an hour because they basically can see, okay, like yes, yes, respond with that, versus like just typing all the responses out, totally custom every time.
Yeah. Well, I find it really interesting, and this is why like I love these conversations because there's so many components to look at this. Like from a brand side, right? Like if you're a founder, CEO, and you care about your brand and what that brand means, I actually think AI could be really, really interesting. And let me give you a quick example, right? Like if you're calling about a refund or anything like that, and you might hit one support rep and they have they just got off a terrible call, and so their personality is still thinking about that one call, and it's just a frustrating experience. You call back in a couple hours and you hit another customer support agent. This one is incredibly like on brand, happy to chat with you and so forth, and right. And so a brand is about consistency of whatever that message is again and again and again. And that's really, really hard to replicate currently in today, right? Like the best of brands, I'm just thinking out loud, but like let's say if you're going to a Chick-fil-A, right? Like that experience is usually the same experience again and again and again. You know who you're going to
Yeah.
talk to. But that's so hard to do. But then when I think about AI and the ability to kind of again like the inputs of like, hey, here is the brand messaging, here's what we talk about, here's how we talk, and for the AI to like learn all about that and all every single output, no matter what the question is, like can respond in your brand. I think that's something that will completely change the game.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, right. But then there's this other side, which is like this empathy, right? Like I do care that my answer is solved, but at the
Hmm.
same time, like I want them to feel the pain of what I'm feeling too. That makes me feel better. And so like that's got to be really hard to achieve though when it comes to AI, that sense of empathy like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you think of that, but that's still years away. I don't even know how possible that would be.
I don't know. There's this one AI called PI. Like I think the website is heypi.com, and I think it's basically designed as like a AI therapist because it's like tell me your problems, and like I've experimented with it, and I'm like, man, like this reminds me just like Talkspace, like this online therapy app, and I think that we're closer than most people think to really like having that experience of like not being able to tell the difference and and maybe not caring if you're like getting the same results or better, like what why do we like value human, like, one-on-one contact versus like the the person or the thing that like solves the issue that you're having, and especially with customer service, it's usually there's a problem and there's the solution, and you just have to figure out that together.
Is there? I think that's so interesting because, like, I think what you just said, like, there's a problem and there's a solution. I almost think that in between that is the brand, right? Like,
Mm,
is the experience of how it's going between when you get your question in and how you get your question in and when you get the
yeah.
result. And that goes back to the founder thing, right? Like, it is maybe it's like, no, I want to keep that as minimal as possible. Question, answer, done. Everything's automated. You get your answer, you move on with life. But
Yep.
with the, again, I have my marketing mindset on now, but like with the attention spans of people, like, don't you want to like embrace that time and like really make it maybe not as long as the one would want, but like give that a great experience where someone remembers that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Debatable.
with yeah, I think with the large language models too, you can train the AIs to replicate your brand. I mean, they can really
Yes.
learn from the past customer service agents, and I mean, you can also like rate them and say like, learn from this, don't learn from that. And so, like you were saying, of having that consistent experience, you're basically creating the perfect customer service agent like over time, and that's your model. And once you achieve it, I mean, you can vary it, you can play around with it, you could even like A/B test it, but you've created this perfect like baseline that like you can work off against versus, like you were saying, different
Yeah.
customer service agents, they're prone to emotions, they have feelings, which they should, they're people, but that's actually maybe not what you 100% want to like represent your brand, like your customer service agents personal feelings if they're having a bad day, that shouldn't translate over until like how they treat your customers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on that note too, like one position that is going to get a lot of attention is whoever's the head of operations in like this customer experience world, right? Because like
Mhm.
I think if it was centered before, I would probably say right now that customer experience manager is all about understanding all the different touch points and then working with the agents about how to really optimize the heck out of it. But if I were to take your opinions moving forward with an AI, it's like, okay, now you have the models, now you have to understand the touch points, the brand, the voice. How do you automate all that stuff? And knowing how technology or what technology solves all those points, like my gosh, like the ops person here is going to have their hands full, but a lot of opportunity to look forward to, and in a space that's going to be changing consistently, right?
Yeah, they might have to monitor a runaway bot. It starts, treating customers terribly, and it learned from the wrong agent or something.
Well, we talked about jobs right to begin with, where it's like, gosh, like, will this minimize the amount of jobs at these sort of companies? But here's definitely a new position that will exist that hasn't existed before because of the creation of this stuff.
Yeah, head of oversight of the AIs.
It's going to happen, right? Because like even if you
Yeah.
think about other companies like us in the SaaS world specifically, there's probably going to be someone soon that's like, hey, let me understand all these different processes, and here's a solution that uses AI that like completely changes it from three whatever steps back to one. And that's the same thing what's going to happen in the D2C world too, right?
Yeah, I think you have to, manage and look over the AI as if you're looking over an employee and making sure that they're answering questions correctly. People are happy with the answers. Like a customer service agent, they can rate them at the end of the chat. If it's a bot, you need to see, are the customers happy with the answers they're getting or not?
Oh, for sure. So, last question. I think the last question. I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling this out of my hat.
Yeah.
I, is there anything that you've come across, either inside the CX marketing, um, again, ops, specifically with AI, that you've seen that's really interesting out there? I guess I'll stop there.
Um, I think Shopify's push for AI is really interesting. They've talked about their sidekick that they haven't released yet, but Toby's, made an announcement
Oh, they haven't
personally about
released
it.
it yet? Oh, God, you're talking about it like they released it.
Yeah, yeah, like Mr. Beast had like an advertisement in his latest video about it, but I think it's like in early release or beta, but it's not definitely
Can you explain
available.
Sidekick for the audience too?
Yeah. So Sidekick seems to be kind of Shopify's replacement for their live chat. Um, my understanding is that like it's very expensive to manage a live chat if you have millions of customers. And I think, like we're talking about, they want to have an AI to help customers quickly and for them, like efficiently for Shopify. But they're not trying to stop at just like customer support. They're trying to have it do things on your store for you. So you could ask it, hey, can you replace all the product names that have milk in them with the word oat milk or something like that? Or, they gave an example, can you make my theme look like fall themed? I think that one's a little like farther off, getting
Yeah.
into the design aesthetics of it. But ultimately, they want to have this, live chat that acts like a support agent, maybe even an agency. They said it's not intended to replace developers, but I could see it, and maybe this is a good thing. Uh, Solving some of the questions that we get as an agency of, hey, how can I do this little thing, instead of having like to email us, they can just ask the the bot, and if they get the answer, like I was saying, like I'm happy that they got the answer, and they probably got the answer very quickly because it's a bot versus having to wait for a human to be able to respond to that question.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, especially just right, these used to be features only for large enterprise companies with like a huge tech team that is developing this, and now to have a small one, two person Shopify team in order to get this off the ground. That's amazing. So, isn't there an, isn't there also a tool, or maybe Shopify's coming out with a tool too that's like more internally where it understands everything about the data that you have in your platform and you can ask it questions? Have you heard of
I
that or
think,
no?
yeah, I think
Is
that's
that the same
supposed to
thing?
be a part. Yeah, it's supposed to be a part of
Okay.
Sidekick. Yeah,
Okay.
so you can ask it analytics questions, reporting, whatever. Theoretically, it's like Chat GPT that is in your Shopify store. So it looks cool in the demos. We'll see how it like works in practice.
Oh man, yeah, let's see that. I mean, like what you said, like it hasn't come out yet, but just knowing that they're going in this direction just kind of means that they're not going to stop. So there's just going to be more and more features coming out, especially with your type of clients that are, one, two, three people that are looking to really like scale. Like this should be really successful for them.
Yep, for sure.
Cool. Well, Mark, again, I'm going to end it here, but I appreciate all the time, all your insights about CX and AI. Let's do this again.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right. Thanks all. We'll talk to you all later.